Look, when I signed up to be a space janitor, nobody mentioned I'd end up babysitting the galaxy's most terrifying offspring. My name's Jake Morrison, and I used to have simple dreams. Clean some floors, empty some trash receptacles, maybe accidentally discover a new species of space mold. Normal stuff. Instead, I'm standing here watching Commander Vextar, a 7-foot-tall reptilian warrior with scars that spell out his autobiography in ancient battle tongue, practically begging me to watch his daughter for the weekend. And when I say daughter, I mean a creature that looks like someone crossed a dragon with a black hole and gave it daddy issues. Please, human Jake, Vextar rumbles, his voice causing minor structural damage to my office walls. The little Scarlet is very well behaved. She only ate 3 moons last week, and 2 of them were already uninhabited. I should probably explain how this became my life. 3 months ago, I was just trying to clean the waste disposal unit on Research Station Omega when I heard this god-awful wailing. Turned out to be a baby void kraken having a tantrum because its favorite asteroid got too close to a star and melted. The thing was literally tearing holes in space-time with its crying. Everyone else ran. Scientists, security guards, even the maintenance droids noped right out of there. But me? I walked over and did what any reasonable person would do. I told it to knock it off because nap time was in 20 minutes, and if it didn't stop crying, there wouldn't be any juice boxes. The universe went quiet. Not just the station, mind you, the actual universe. Even quantum fluctuations stopped to stare. The void kraken blinked its 17 eyes, made a sound like a contented whale, and curled up for its nap. That's when everything went sideways. Word spread faster than bad cafeteria food through the galactic communication networks. Humans can calm cosmic horrors, they said. Humans treat universe-ending entities like normal children, they whispered. Humans are either the bravest species in existence or completely insane, they concluded. Spoiler alert, it's definitely the second one. Now I've got a waiting list longer than the Andromeda spiral on. Every species with a problematic offspring wants to drop them off at Jake's place for the weekend. The Galactic Council even gave me an official title, Specialist in Xenobiological Juvenile Management, which is a fancy way of saying that crazy human who babysits monsters. She really is a good girl, Vextar continues, pulling out what looks like a family photo but is actually a tactical assessment of his daughter's destructive capabilities. Very artistic. She arranged the debris from her last meal into a lovely spiral pattern. I look at the picture. It shows the remnants of what used to be a small solar system, now twisted into what I have to admit is actually a pretty decent galaxy-shaped sculpture. Not bad for a toddler whose tantrums can crack planets. Fine, I say. Because what's one more cosmic horror on the roster? Standard rate applies. No eating inhabited worlds, no reality warping without supervision, and if she brings home any stray black holes, you're paying the cleaning deposit. Vextar's relief is so palpable it registers on nearby seismic equipment. You are truly the most fearless being in the galaxy, human Jake. He felt fearless. Right. If only he knew that I spent last Tuesday hiding under my desk because I thought I saw a spider in my coffee mug. My daycare is technically a Class VE reinforced space station orbiting quarantine planet Nix-9, which used to house the galaxy's most dangerous criminals before they all died of natural causes. Coincidentally, that was right around the time I needed a bigger facility. Pip, status report. I call out as I walk through the main play area, which has been reinforced with enough tritanium to build a small fleet. Pip scuttles over on his 6 legs, clutching his ever-present data pad like a security blanket. He's a Hexian. Looks like someone crossed a praying mantis with an anxiety disorder and keeps detailed files on every child we've ever watched, including their kill counts. Good morning, Jake, Pip goes in his high-pitched voice. Current residents include Blaze, the juvenile stellar worm, currently napping in Containment Chamber 7 after eating 3 decommissioned starships for breakfast. Nova, the young PSI horror, is in the quiet room practicing her telepathic giggles. And the reality bender twins, Zap and Zip, are in the arts and crafts area where they can only accidentally erase things we don't need. I love how Pip makes it sound like a normal daycare report. Any incidents? Define incident, Pip says, consulting his notes. If you mean universe-threatening catastrophes, then no. If you mean Blaze getting indigestion and hiccuping plasma that melted through 3 backup walls, then yes, but I've already filed the repair requisition. This is my life now. Managing a facility where the biggest concern isn't whether little Timmy ate paste, but whether little Blaze ate a passing cargo freighter. I check on Blaze first. She's a stellar worm, which means she looks like a snake made of living starfire and is about the size of a subway train. At 6 months old, she's just starting to develop her appetite for spacecraft metal. Her parents dropped her off because they needed to attend a diplomatic conference, and apparently, bringing a creature that instinctively devours technology to a meeting about intergalactic trade agreements was diplomatically inadvisable. "Morning, Blaze," I say, scratching behind what I think are her ears. She makes a sound like a happy solar flare and nuzzles against the viewing window, which immediately starts glowing red hot. "Jake," Pip whispers urgently. Her core temperature is rising. "She's happy to see you." "That's nice," I say, stepping back before the window melts. "Did you remember to give her the iron supplements?" "Yes, though I had to source them from a decommissioned battleship. The corner store was fresh out of spaceship-grade minerals." Next stop, Nova's quiet room. She's a PSI horror, which means she looks like someone tried to draw an octopus from memory while having a fever dream. At 3 years old, she's just starting to develop her psychic abilities, which mainly manifest as accidentally showing people their worst fears when she gets excited. "Hey Nova, what you up to?" She waves a tentacle at me cheerfully and makes a sound like wind chimes made of happiness. Immediately, my brain fills with images of being chased by giant tax fawns while naked, which means she's trying to play peekaboo with my subconscious again. "Nova, remember what we talked about? Other people's minds are private property." Or, she makes an apologetic burbling sound, and the terrifying visions fade. Instead, I get a mental image of her drawing, which appears to be me surrounded by hearts and what I think are supposed to be flowers but look more like screaming faces. "That's very nice, sweetie. Very abstract." She's been asking about her parents, Pit notes, checking his schedule. They're not due back from their hunting expedition for another 2 weeks. Sea horrors are pack hunters that feed on fear and despair. Nova's parents are currently tracking down a rogue AI that's been spreading existential dread through social media networks. A quality family time. Finally, I check on Zap and Zip, the reality bender twins. They're 4 years old and look like floating geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. They're currently playing with building blocks, except their blocks are made of crystallized possibility, and every time they stack them wrong, small portions of reality get temporarily edited. "Hi, Mr. Jake." They say in unison, their voices coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Hi, kids. What are we building today?" "A castle," Zap announces proudly, pointing at what looks like a small fortress made of purple light. "But it keeps being a fish," Zip adds sadly, as the castle suddenly transforms into something that definitely wasn't there a moment ago. "That's okay," I tell them. "Even the best architects have revision periods. Just remember, no erasing anything bigger than yourselves, and if you accidentally delete someone, apologize and put them back immediately." "Okay, Mr. Jake." Pip's eye stalks are twitching, which is his equivalent of a nervous breakdown. "Jake, how are you so calm about this? Any one of these children could end civilization as we know it if they sneezed wrong." I shrug. "Have you ever tried to get a human toddler to eat vegetables? Trust me, cosmic horror is just Tuesday compared to that. The alarm that wakes me up isn't the usual reality is unraveling alarm, or even the standard someone's eating the furniture again alert. This is the big one. The Galactic Council inspection alarm, which sounds like a funeral dirge played by robots with depression. "Jake," Pip's voice crackles through the intercom. "We have a code bureau. Inspector Cronbeth is requesting immediate docking clearance for a comprehensive facility review." I roll out of bed and immediately stub my toe on the emergency anti-reality kit I keep beside my nightstand. "What time is it?" 0700 Galactic Standard. "Babe." The inspector's ship is already in the outer marker. Perfect. Nothing says professional childcare facility like greeting the galaxy's most notorious hard-ass bureaucrat while wearing pajamas covered in cartoon spaceships. Inspector Cronbeth is a Vel Taran, which means he looks like someone designed a filing cabinet with legs and gave it a personality disorder. He's got a reputation for shutting down operations that violate even the most obscure safety regulations. And rumor has it, he once condemned an entire space station because the emergency exits weren't clearly marked in all 732 known galactic languages. Right? Specialist Morrison, he announces as he steps off his ship, clutching a briefcase that probably contains enough paperwork to deforest a small moon. I am here to conduct a comprehensive evaluation of your facility's compliance with Galactic Safety Code 847B regarding the containment and care of potentially reality-threatening juvenile entities. Welcome to Happy Stars Daycare, I say, because that's what I named this place during a particularly optimistic moment. Would you like some coffee? Fair warning, though, it's made with beans from a plant that technically doesn't exist yet. His four eyes narrow to suspicious slits. I require nothing but your full cooperation and immediate access to all containment areas, safety protocols, and incident reports. No problem. Pip, could you grab the incident files? Pip scuttles over carrying what looks like a small library. These are just from last week, he explains to the increasingly pale inspector. Should I get the rest? This will suffice, Cronbeth says weakly, accepting a stack of reports that would make tax attorneys weep. Perhaps we should begin with a tour of the facilities. That's when everything starts going wrong. Not unusual wrong, mind you. This is wrong in the special way that only happens when the universe decides to have a sense of humor. We're barely through the first corridor when Zap and Zip come floating around the corner, arguing about whose turn it is to exist. I was being real first. Zap insists. No, I was. You were just pretending to be real, Zip counters. Hey, children. I call out, we have a visitor, remember your manners. They both turn to look at Inspector Cronbeth, and I can see his reflection multiplying infinitely in their impossible geometries. Hello, mister. They chorus, and suddenly Cronbeth's briefcase starts floating and begins reciting poetry about the existential loneliness of office supplies. Fascinating. The briefcase muses in Cronbeth's own voice. I never realized how much I yearned for meaning beyond mere document storage. Zap. Zip, I say firmly. What did we discuss about making things sentient without permission? Sorry, Mr. Jake, they say, and the briefcase stops its philosophical monologue and drops back into Cronbeth's hands, which are shaking like leaves in a gravitational storm. This is highly irregular, he stammers. The briefcases should not achieve self-awareness during routine inspections. Kids will be kids, I say. Pip, make a note to add briefcase psychology to next week's activity schedule. We continue the tour, but things don't improve. In the quiet room, Nova tries to be helpful by showing Inspector Cronbeth a telepathic welcome message, which accidentally includes a detailed preview of his deepest fear, being trapped in an endless bureaucratic meeting where all the forms are filled out in crayon. The poor guy stumbles out of there looking like he's seen the heat death of the universe, which, knowing Nova, he probably has. Perhaps, he says, voice cracking like a teenage gorgon, we should review your safety protocols. Sure thing. Our primary safety measure is treating everyone like normal kids and not getting freaked out when reality has a minor hiccup. Cronbeth stares at me. That's your entire safety protocol. Well, we also have juice boxes in case of emergency tantrums, and a timeout corner that exists in a pocket dimension so it can't be accidentally destroyed. Before he can respond, Blaze pokes her starfire head around the corner and spots our visitor. Being a friendly sort, she decides to say hello by breathing a small greeting flame in his direction. The inspector's clipboard catches fire, burns completely, then reforms from the ashes with all his notes written in what appears to be ancient Draconic. Your evaluation forms have been upgraded, I tell him. Blaze has excellent penmanship for someone without hands. Cronbeth looks at his mysteriously translated paperwork, then at me, then at the small dragon made of living plasma who's wagging her tail like a happy puppy. "You're all insane," he whispers. "Yeah, I agree. But we're really good at what we do." The emergency alert goes off right in the middle of Inspector Cronbeth's nervous breakdown, which is poor timing because I was hoping to ease him into the really weird stuff gradually. "Code Omega, Code Omega," the station's AI announces in the cheerfully bland voice I programmed it with. "Incoming juvenile entropy eater requesting emergency placement. All personnel please assume panic positions." Cronbeth drops his reformed clipboard, which immediately sprouts legs and runs away to hide under a desk. "Code Omega? That's impossible. The last time a Code Omega alert was issued, the Zephyrian Empire lost an entire solar system." "Relax," I tell him, pulling up the communication screen. "It's probably not that bad. Pip, patch me through to the requesting party." The view screen flickers to life, revealing Admiral Zeph Euros and his mate, two beings that look like they were designed by committee to be as intimidating as possible. They're void dwellers, which means they exist partially outside normal space-time and communicate through controlled reality distortions. "Human Jake," Admiral Zeph Euros booms, his voice causing minor earthquakes on 3 nearby planets. "We require your services immediately. Our offspring has reached the difficult stage." "Define difficult," I say, though I already know I'm going to regret asking. His mate, whose name roughly translates to "she who devours light," steps forward. Little Doonling has begun manifesting entropy manipulation capabilities. Yesterday, he had a tantrum and accidentally aged our moon 13 billion years. It crumbled to dust. "That's concerning," I admit. "What's the current situation?" "We have been summoned to the Galactic Defense Council," Admiral Zeph Euros explains. "There are reports of reality anomalies spreading across 7 sectors. Our presence is required to contain the situation. And you can't take Doomling with you because she who devours light says patiently, the last time we brought him to a formal gathering, he got bored and unmade the conference table, and the room, and the space station. The delegates are still floating in quantum suspension, waiting for someone to remember them back into existence." Inspector Cronbeth makes a sound like a filing cabinet having an existential crisis. "You're actually considering this? An entropy eater, a creature that can literally edit things out of reality by accident?" "Look," I tell him, "either I babysit this kid, or his parents miss the emergency council meeting, and whatever's causing those reality anomalies gets worse. Pick your disaster." "But the protocols," Cronbeth whimpers, "the safety regulations, the insurance implications." "Pip," I call out, "start prepping Containment Suite Alpha. I can break out the special activity books. The ones printed on quantum-stable paper that can't be accidentally erased from existence." Pip asks. "Those are the ones." "Yes, okay." Admiral Zeph Euros looks relieved, which is terrifying because when a being of his power level relaxes, small galaxies tend to realign themselves. "You have our eternal gratitude, Human Jake. How do you remain so calm in the face of such cosmic responsibility?" I shrug. "I've seen what happens when a human 4-year-old gets their hands on permanent markers. Trust me, entropy manipulation is manageable by comparison." The communication ends, and I turn to find Inspector Cronbeth staring at me with the horrified fascination usually reserved for traffic accidents involving black holes. "You're going to babysit a creature that can unmake reality," he says slowly. "Yep. A being whose tantrums can age moons to dust. That's the one. And your plan is to treat it like a normal child?" "Pretty much." He sits down heavily in the nearest chair, which immediately tries to comfort him by adjusting its ergonomic settings. "I need to report this to the council. They have to know that humans have moved beyond dangerous into a category that doesn't have words yet." "Tell them we're accepting new clients," I say. "Business is booming." "That's exactly what terrifies everyone," Cronbeth mutters, pulling out his communicator with shaking hands. "This is Inspector Cronbeth calling Galactic Council Emergency Response. We have a situation that defies classification. The humans are doing it again." 20 minutes later, Doomling arrives via reality distortion, which means one moment we're standing in an empty docking bay, and the next moment there's a small humanoid figure that looks like someone drew a child using cosmic background radiation and existential dread. "Hi," Doomling says in a voice like the last star going out. "Are you my babysitter?" "That's me," I say. "Welcome to Happy Stars Daycare. Are you hungry? We've got sandwiches that exist in 7 dimensions simultaneously." His little face lights up, literally, with bioluminescent joy. "Really? I haven't had properly dimensional food in ages. Mom and Dad only pack boring stable reality lunches." And just like that, Inspector Cronbeth faints, which is probably the most sensible thing anyone's done all day. Doomling settles in remarkably well for a cosmic force of entropy given physical form. He's actually quite polite, says please and thank you, and only accidentally erases things when he gets excited or surprised. "This is so cool," he says, looking around the main play area where the other kids have gathered to meet him. "I've never been to a real daycare before." Mom says other species find me conceptually threatening, whatever that means. "It means they're scared of you because they don't understand you," I explain, setting up the activity table with quantum-stable coloring books. "But here we treat everyone like normal kids because that's what you are." Nova floats over and offers Doomling one of her tentacles in greeting, accidentally sharing a psychic image of her favorite nightmare. Instead of being disturbed, Doomling giggles. "That's a good one. I like the part where all the math is wrong and numbers don't mean anything anymore." They become instant friends, bonding over their shared love of things that make reality uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Inspector Cronbeth has regained consciousness and is frantically taking notes while hiding behind an overturned table. "This is unprecedented," he mutters into his recorder. The subject appears to be engaging in normal social interaction despite being capable of ending conceptual existence. Human supervisor shows no signs of appropriate terror. "Would you like to join us?" I call over. "We're about to start story time." "Story time," he repeats weakly. "With an entropy eater." "All kids need stories," I say, pulling out a book that's been specially treated to exist in multiple narrative dimensions simultaneously. Today we're reading the little engine that could theoretically exist in all possible realities. The kids gather around, and I notice Doomling carefully positioning himself so that his reality warping field doesn't accidentally affect the book. He's already learned to control his powers around things he doesn't want to unmake, which is impressive for someone who's essentially a toddler-shaped universal constant. "Once upon a time," I begin, "there was a little engine who thought he might be able to, but wasn't entirely sure due to quantum uncertainty." Halfway through the story, Blaze starts hiccuping plasma again, but instead of being alarmed, Doomling finds it hilarious and accidentally makes her hiccups visible as tiny rainbow-colored reality distortions. "Look." He laughs, pointing at the floating geometric burps. "I made them pretty." "Very nice," I tell him. "But remember, we only make visible phenomena when everyone agrees it's okay." "Oh right, sorry Blaze." She makes a happy rumbling sound and nuzzles his shoulder, which causes a small probability cascade that turns her plasma hiccups into actual soap bubbles for about 10 minutes. Inspector Cronbeth's note-taking becomes increasingly frantic. Spontaneous reality revision appears to be recreational activity. Human supervisor treats universal constant manipulation as minor behavioral correction. By lunchtime, Doomling has integrated perfectly with the group. He and the reality bender twins are collaborating on an art project that exists in 17 dimensions and depicts what I think is meant to be our solar system, but with better lighting. "Mr. Jake," Zap asks, "is it okay if we make our picture real?" "Only if it's smaller than a basketball and doesn't replace anything important," I tell them. "What about bigger than a basketball but prettier than what's already there?" "Nice try, but no." Nova shares her lunch with Doomling, which involves a complex psychic exchange of nutrients that looks like 2 kids trading sandwiches, but is actually a form of interdimensional communion that would make xenobiologists weep with joy. And through it all, Inspector Cronbeth documents everything with the dedication of someone recording the end of the world, which I suppose he technically is. "They're just kids." I tell him during nap time, when all 5 cosmic horrors are curled up together in a pile that occasionally phases through different dimensions. Scared, excited, curious kids who happen to have universe-altering abilities they're still learning to control. But how? He asks desperately. How do you remain so calm when any one of them could accidentally destroy everything? Because getting panicked and treating them like monsters is exactly how you cause the accidents everyone's afraid of. I explain. Fear makes people unpredictable. Kids especially. You want to see a real disaster? Try telling Nova she's scary and see how well that goes. As if summoned by the conversation, Nova opens one sleepy eye and sends us both a gentle telepathic image of a warm hug. Then goes back to sleep while accidentally making Inspector Crombeth's hair briefly turn purple. I think she likes you, I whisper. He touches his temporarily violet hair and, for the first time since arriving, almost smiles. Perhaps, he admits quietly, there is some logic to your methods. That's when the emergency alert goes off again, and I realize we're about to find out just how well my methods really work. 6 months later, I'm standing in front of the Galactic Council giving my monthly status report, which has become a regular thing since the whole preventing universal entropy through proper childcare incident made into galactic news. Human Jake Morrison, Council Chair Vex Nara, announces, please provide your update on the Cosmic Juvenile Management Program. I look out at the assembled delegates representing 47 different species, most of whom are still trying to figure out whether humans are the galaxy's greatest hope or its most dangerous liability. Happy to report another successful month. I begin. We've expanded operations to include 3 additional facilities staffed by human specialists. Current enrollment includes 57 entities previously classified as universe-threatening, 0 apocalyptic incidents, and only minor reality fluctuations within acceptable parameters. Murmurs ripple through the assembly. Half impressed, half terrified. Furthermore, I continue, we've established a training program for new human specialists. Turns out the key qualifications are being slightly insane, completely fearless, and having experience dealing with regular human children, which basically prepares you for anything. Ambassador Keth Moore from the Regillian Consortium raises his appendage. Human Jake, how do you explain your species' unique ability to manage these entities without triggering catastrophic events? Well, I say, we've done some research, and it turns out humans have a couple of advantages. First, we're apex persistence predators, which means we don't give up when things get difficult. Second, we're social creatures who form emotional bonds even with things that probably shouldn't exist. And third, we're just crazy enough to not realize when we should be afraid. But surely, interrupts Councillor Zeftal, there must be some scientific explanation for human effectiveness in this field. There is, I admit. Turns out that when you treat universe-ending entities like normal kids instead of cosmic horrors, they respond like normal kids. They want attention, affection, and someone to tell them when they're doing something wrong. Fear makes them unpredictable. Love makes them manageable. Inspector Crombeth, who's been attending these meetings as the Council's official human activities observer, stands up. If I may add to Specialist Morrison's report, he says, 6 months of observation have confirmed that human methods, while appearing to violate every known safety protocol, produce consistently successful outcomes. The humans have achieved what every other species considered impossible. They've made cosmic horror into a childcare specialty. And the psychological effect on the human specialists themselves, asks Dr. Yil Rath from the Psychiatric Evaluation Committee. I grin. We've had to institute mandatory therapy sessions, not because we're traumatized by babysitting universe destroyers, but because we keep forgetting that most people think what we do is impossible. Last week, one of our new hires tried to discipline a dark matter entity by putting it in timeout. And when it worked, she had a crisis about whether reality makes sense anymore. More murmurs, these ones distinctly nervous. The program's success has led to some interesting developments. I continue. We've got a waiting list that extends into next year, and several species have started requesting human nannies for their normal, non-apocalyptic children. Apparently, if you can handle a reality bender, regular tantrums are a breeze. The council chair Vex Nara leans forward. What are your recommendations for program expansion? We need more humans, I say simply. And maybe some better insurance policies. Also, someone should probably start a support group for the parents. Turns out, watching humans casually manage your species' most feared offspring causes its own kind of psychological stress. The meeting continues for another hour, covering logistics, safety protocols, and the increasingly urgent question of what to do with a species that treats universal constants like particularly unruly toddlers. As I leave the council chambers, my communicator chimes with a new message: emergency babysitting request from the temporal custodians. Their kid is apparently having trouble with linear time perception and keeps accidentally making next Tuesday happen before Monday. I sigh and head back to the ship. Another day, another cosmic horror to convince that juice boxes are more interesting than unmaking reality. But you know what? I wouldn't trade this job for anything. Sure, it's stressful. And yes, there's always the chance that someone's going to accidentally erase me from existence. But there's something deeply satisfying about being the person the galaxy calls when everything's about to go wrong. Besides, the pay is excellent, and where else can you put successfully prevented universal entropy through proper naptime scheduling on your resume? My communicator chimes again. This time it's a message from little Doomling, who's back home with his parents, but still sends regular updates about his school progress. Today's achievement: he managed to get through an entire arithmetic lesson without accidentally aging his calculator into dust. I smile and start composing a reply congratulating him on his improvement, while already planning how to handle a species that treats temporal mechanics like finger painting. Just another day in the life of humanity's most unlikely export, professional cosmic babysitters who are too crazy to know they should be scared, and just loving enough to make it work. The galaxy may never understand us, but they sure do trust us with their kids. And honestly, that's probably the most human thing of all.